Hey, welcome to Creative Block. We're your host, Gene.
And V, we interview people in creative industries about their life, work, and hobbies while we doodle jam.
We asked people on Twitter if they had specific topics they want us to discuss, as well as some drawing prompts.
And today with us, we have Julia Kaye.
Hi,
Hey!
Hey
Julia.
guys.
How's it
Hello,
going?
hello. Thanks for inviting me. Good.
Absolutely.
Good.
Um, Tell us who you are and what you do.
Who am I?
Who are
Does
you?
anyone really know? I guess creatively, career-wise, I'm a cartoonist, best known for the webcomic Up and Out. I have released a couple books over the past few years, Super Late Bloomer and My Life in Transition. I've voice acted on High Guardian Spice, playing the role of Snapdragon, and I've been in the animation industry for the past 5 years or so, working
Nice.
on Big City Greens.
Excellent. You are our first official comics-specific guest. So congrats. I'm going to clap.
Yay!
Yeah, we wanted to bring you on the show mostly because of that. Because obviously animation is how you pay the bills, but you've had a very successful career in comics. And we haven't talked to anybody about that, and we would love to hear how you got into that and what your journey has been with that. But let's take it back a little bit. What was little Julie's introduction into art?
The first stuff that hit hard, newspaper comics. Through
Okay.
and through. Every
What were the
morning.
ones you liked?
Honestly, I read every one that I could from
Okay.
cover to cover every day.
Even Marmaduke?
Even Marmaduke, even that dirty dog.
Dirty dog.
I was a big Garth fan. I was big on Foxtrots, Calvin and
Foxtrot, even.
Hobbes. Yeah,
Deep cuts.
yeah. Jumpstart, Baby Blues, for better or worse, was kind of a game changer. Really, really saccharine and like pushing like some very conservative values, but like allowed the characters to age over time was fantastic. Anyways, yeah, just all of them. All of them.
Yeah. Newspaper comics are a weird, like, I watched a Super Eye Patch Wolf video about Garfield recently, which was fascinating, and I recommend everyone watch it. For some reason, because like there's like two big ones, right? And it's like Calvin and Hobbes, which is like a beloved darling, one that almost stood out more as art than any of the others. And then there's Garfield, which is like taken on this weird like mimetic thing, and his video talks about that and how it's like evolved beyond comics into this like weird internet thing. I don't know, I just find that interesting because like newspaper comics are so stuffy and
Yeah.
old, but so many people came from that influence and are now doing different things with it and like evolving the medium. And that's kind of what you're doing too, is you're taking that format, that like 3-panel, 4-panel thing, but adapting it for a modern audience with modern themes.
Yeah. I mean, I think that there's a lot of power and value in that medium. There's like this immediacy of being able to have like tell stories on a daily basis in these little micro vignettes, in a way that I don't feel like you really get with animation, because like an animated series will just like drop an entire season in one go. You watch it over the course of like an afternoon, and then you're done. Whereas like those newspaper comics, they lived with me for years on end. I was with those characters,
Yeah.
There's a real beauty and staying power in that.
Yeah, the consistency of the storytelling is interesting because there's really not a lot of mediums that, except like the closest thing is shonen, but that's weekly, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
it's like it doesn't live in people's lives as much as the daily comic.
Yeah.
Is that something? Because you haven't been doing as many of those. Is that something that's just become difficult to keep up, or what's the story with that?
I go through phases. It's hard to say. Like it goes back to the days when I was doing gag strips, way back in the like I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago now. I was doing those like 3 or 4 times a week, and it just when I started making the comics that went to become a super late bloomer, there was a real need for that. It was immediacy. Like, it was art therapy. I needed to make a project that was really small for myself that would help me to navigate my daily life. And I kind of turned to the newspaper format. And it just made sense for me to do that on a daily basis, kind of like these daily meditations on where my life was at. Something about like the marathon of doing that was really powerful to me. But obviously, like, doing a marathon of art like that kind of wears you out. Sure. And so, like, I've done that twice now, where, like, for 6-month periods, like, I'll make daily comics for myself. And yeah, I don't know. And then, like, I needed, like, because I end up being, like, really raw and honest about my feelings and things that I've gone through, I need to give myself mental distance from those events. And so, like, sure. I kind of set them aside for 6 months to a year before I feel like I can share them, before I can feel comfortable enough to do so. So it becomes this whole process. I still like making comics, and I still try to when inspiration strikes. But it's been nice to take a break from that, to take a back seat to sure. Other avenues in my life right now.
Yeah. So it's not like you don't feel that burden of having to do it all the time. It's more just
thank
like,
God, no. Thank
right.
God.
Well, it's like, but some people do, right? Like it becomes a job, and I guess that's where having the animation career helps, because you don't have that pressure.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, when I was trying to make comics work for me, like as a full-time thing, like I experienced such intense burnout from trying to keep up with that on such a regular basis. The 2 memoir comics that I've been able to put out over the past few years, like that wouldn't have been possible if I was trying to make a living doing comics. Like the methodology that went into it, like quite frankly, it's not a very marketable comic series on face value. Like it, yeah, like the skill set just like wouldn't have been possible if I was trying to make something that's, you know, was going to make enough money to keep me alive and going.
Yeah.
What was the timeline like for you starting making comics versus starting your animation career? Did you start both at the same time, or were you doing comics before you started animation? What was the timeline for that?
Well, you know, I went to school for art, majored in the wrong thing. Immediately after graduating, I was like, oh shit, I should have done comics. What was I doing? So then I had to set about teaching myself how to tell a narrative. Meanwhile, I'm working odd jobs and whatever.
Like what kind of jobs?
I was working selling strollers in a baby store for a long time. Okay. That was a doozy. And I did graphic design for this company for this real estate company on Wall Street for a few years.
Oh yeah! Wow.
Yeah. I've worked in in the middle of nowhere in Massachusetts at this general store behind the butcher counter.
Oh wow!
Damn!
Oh wow! That must have been something.
Yeah. I mean, like, I in retrospect, I enjoy having had a lot of life experiences and gotten to do so many things. But yeah, all the while, I was just trying to teach myself how to kind of tell a visual narrative and all that. And then at some point, a few years into living in New York, my then partner and I decided to leave the city, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to make a stab at making comics for a living, despite not having any prior success in doing so. And and it worked out, thankfully, I guess.
Sure.
I started making gag strips, and they took off. Eventually, companies like BuzzFeed started paying me to keep on doing it.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
And you say that even though they did pay you to make comics, you still needed like to have another gig on the side, right?
Yeah. So, you know, it's still like money was touch and go. It wasn't until like Webtoon reached out to me to pay me to make whatever the hell I wanted on a twice a week basis that I was able to like quit my job.
Oh, nice.
Amazing.
Yeah, I kind of wonder about Webtoon. I kind of want to keep talking about that a little bit later. I do want to ask you a little bit more about college and what was the mysterious major that you regretted.
Oh goodness. I I ended up in illustration. I went to school specifically for comics and kind of
Mhm.
forgot it somewhere along the way.
Mm.
I went to
What was
school.
this? Yeah.
I went to SCAD. I went to SCAD
Okay. Okay.
because they had a comics department, and I was like, hey, that sounds neat. And then I got there. I took like a 101 course, and the year was like 2006, and the message from the top down in that department was, "You're majoring in a hobby. Comics are in the tank right now. You are wasting your money being here." So me and like 4 or 5 other people ended up leaving, quickly leaving and going like, I
Damn.
guess illustration kind of seems like a similar thing, but like you can make money maybe. Um,
Oh, right.
and even though
Yeah.
like none of us really cared about it.
Yeah.
Did you ever submit like little drawings to the New Yorker? I feel like this is something like
They,
all the comic artists have to go through at some point.
they've reached out over the years.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've never really cared about that vein of comics, so it's like whatever.
That is goals. It's like the New Yorker reaching out and you've been like,
And you shut him
no.
down. That is, yeah. I mean, we can talk about Webtoon if you want to talk about it, V.
Yeah, I wonder like kind of I don't know how specific we can get, like
Yeah,
how
no.
comfortable you feel like, but like when you say that you were able to quit your job, like how comfortable like money wise did you feel with Webtoon? Was it
Oh, I
like
mean, yeah, they're
something?
steady. They're steady. They were paying like I don't know. I mean, it wasn't good money, but it was more money. I was still like, after living like poverty wages for so long, like I think I was getting like 500 a week or something. So it's
Oh,
like
nice.
2000 a month. Living in the middle of nowhere in Massachusetts, that was more than enough.
That was going to be the next question. I was like, were you still in New York?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that's sustainable
Yeah.
in New York at all.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Well, that's the
Right.
thing, right? Like a lot of people who work, I guess, full time in comics, like they're not living in major metropolitan areas. Like it's just not possible
No.
with
Right.
most unless you're like Mark Millar or some shit. I don't know. Like unless you're somebody who's like selling movie contracts, it's really fucking hard.
That's what I heard. I think for comic artists that can really like live off just comics is like when they get movie deals, it's kind of like the moment when it's like, all right, this can be the number one focus.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
Wow.
Yeah.
And did you ever consider because your focus was on comics,
Yeah.
right? But did you ever consider going into animation, or was this kind of something more of a fluke? How did that kind of come about?
It really was a fluke more than anything. I mean, a guided fluke, because the type of strips that I was making at the time were absurdist humor, one-off, very narrative focused gag strips. They weren't just like 4 panel meme things, throwaway memes. Like I always needed to put like a narrative twist in there for added storytelling. So like I already had like a basis for like for a skill set that would translate to animation, I suppose. But yeah, I don't know. I'd grown my audience over the years, and I guess to the point where the Houghton brothers, the showrunners from Big City Greens, they came from comics themselves and were partial to comics people. They, I guess, were fans of my work and reached out to me.
Mm-hmm.
That is really cool.
Yeah,
Cool.
no real aspirations. It just sort of happened and made sense. I was going to be moving to LA anyway at the time, and so it was just very serendipitous timing.
Yeah, no, that works out. And then, so going back to your comics, so your comics are generally about your experience as a trans woman and your transition and kind of figuring out yourself, right?
Yeah.
And how much of that, like, were those early sort of phases of figuring it out? were the comics a way to kind of help process those things, or like which informed the other?
Yeah, it was definitely art therapy first and foremost.
Okay.
I was making like 3 or 4 gag strips a week to keep myself afloat financially, and I didn't like it was a weird time back then. Like even 2015, it was a very different world as far as trans representation goes. I didn't know any trans people. I barely knew of like maybe one celebrity trans woman, Laura Jane Grace of Against Me.
Sure.
And yeah, I just felt incredibly, impossibly isolated in my experiences. Maybe I had some trans forums to find some sort of connection with a community, but like nothing that was actually like tactile in any way. And I certainly didn't know how to talk about my experiences to anybody that was in my life. So, I was never any good at journaling, keeping a written journal in any form. Because I was just a comics making machine at the time, it just seemed to make sense to turn to making journal comics for myself to kind of scream into the void of my sketchbook and be honest with myself, which was something that was really radical and new for me at the time, because I had been like repressing my identity for my entire life.
Yeah. And then people respond to it because people love honesty, and that's the great thing is that like it's probably terrifying sort of early on, right, to like be honest that like to that level, and especially like you were saying, there's not a lot of representation at the time, and still isn't, and so but then people see it and they appreciate it, and I mean I've just seen the responses you get, and like you've become an icon in the comic scene, and I don't think that's an understatement. I think that like you've helped a lot of people realize that they are transgender, and it seems like you're kind of becoming this like beacon. You're probably gonna deny it, but I think that I'm gonna compliment you. I think it's great. I think it's awesome that you're doing that, because I think it's really important to a lot of people.
No, thank you. I actually like. Because of the honest nature of my work, I try to not think about making my work for an audience as much as possible. I try not to think about my audience as much as possible. Sure. And so it does honestly surprise me. I've been on TikTok recently, and I asked this question to my fans, because like people have been giving me like that sort of reaction, going like, realizing that like I'm a real person, I guess. But yeah, like anyway, like I was asking like about the response, and yeah, like people were saying that like just every trans girl that they had known like kind of like grew up with these books, with these comics, like that they've been really formative for them. It's really wild just how much of a life of their own that like the books have taken. It's incredible, really. And like people have been giving them to like their parents, their family members, to like spark up a conversation about describing themselves. Like, hey, here's a thing that I can give you that's really accessible, easy to read, is really quick read, and let's talk about it. Here is a piece of me that they can give out. It's incredible. It's incredible.
Yeah. I mean, other than the obvious, just there needs to be more representation. What would you like to see more of in regards to transgender representation?
Honestly, I mean, trans rep has been getting like so much better. It's really wild. Like especially on like in terms of like the immediacy of being able to create content and get it directly to the trans audience that it's seeking. Like in terms of like social media and whatever, like I feel like my comics, like while they had their time and place and like were really wonderful, like it feels like we've moved so far past that. Like I find like TikTok really fascinating for how many like young trans creators are on there that have just like like massive followings. It's really fantastic. I mean, I definitely think that like there's always room for more and more nuanced representation in media. Like I'd ideally like representation of like trans people that like don't involve their transition storylines or coming out storylines, where like you can just have a badass trans woman just in the narrative, and it doesn't need to serve a narrative end, her being trans, that is, you know.
Right.
Definitely.
I'd like to see trans. I mean, like High Guardian Spice. My friend Ray Rodriguez, his show, like it was really fantastic for pushing the envelope for trans representation. In that, like, there's a professor character that he's a trans man, and he just very casually, like one of the students sees a picture of him as a child, and asks like, "Who's that little girl?" And he's just like, "It's me." And like the narrative just kind of moves on past that very quickly. It's just he just exists. He's canon trans and can just live his life, and like that means a lot to so many people.
Just casual.
Yeah.
It's not. Yeah. No, I totally understand that. That's great. Yeah. I mean, I think we're gonna see more and more of that. I think that TikTok is a very interesting thing because it's like a generational slice that is growing up with the internet and with exposure to all these things, and they're discovering themselves. And so if you're on TikTok, which I'm not really, I'm too old. I don't know. I don't get it. But when I do sort of engage with it, like it's awesome to see just how many different kinds of people there are, like teenagers that are really like, I don't know. It's cool. I think that just watching that happen in that little corner of the internet, it's a big corner of the internet, it's going to be such a massive shift in the years to come. Like it's such a massive shift because everyone's become aware of these things. And so I don't know, I think it's cool. I think it's cool that you're also a part of that. Like I said earlier, like it's really contributing to a bigger change that we're going to see like years and years down the line.
Yeah, I think it really does make such a big difference in slowly shifting the societal narrative. It's incredible. It's incredible.
Yeah. What are some of your influences outside of comics? What kind of stuff do you really like?
What do I like? I don't even know, man.
What do you like, Julia?
Does anything exist outside of comics?
Plenty. We got all kinds of anime. We got Western animation.
Well, I mean,
like
books
or
you
video
say that.
games.
You say that, but like I don't know. I was just reading through the Dragon Ball manga for the first time, and I realized thank you. It made such a difference. It cut out all the bullshit. It's incredible.
Yes.
It's incredible. I had no idea. It was always near and dear to my heart as a show, but like it's nigh unwatchable now. And yeah, it's that was so delightful to see. And
thank you for bringing up Dragon Ball.
It's
been quite a few episodes. I think I needed it. I needed somebody to mention it.
Anytime. Yeah, I don't know. Video games are a big part of my life. Have always been a big part of my life. I have been obsessed with the Last of Us series since I discovered it a couple years ago. It's been a very, very important part of my life. This little trauma narrative.
It is a little trauma narrative.
I love it. You have like, this little like a dad that's like dealing with the loss of a child in the first one, and is like slowly healing his heart and becoming a good dad, but then like he makes a very dad decision out of the love of his heart, and it's very damaging, unintentionally very damaging. And then like the second game has to do with the child reconciling having been irreparably emotionally harmed by this father figure, and trying to juggle like the extremes of emotions of like trying to of having like a complex relationship with a parent figure. Like there are good times and there are bad times that you see in flashbacks, but like, how do you forgive this? It's incredible.
Yeah, it's it's pretty impressive the level of emotional complexity that they wove into a game that is like point and shoot, and throw Molotov cocktails at a dude.
It shouldn't work. I think that like in the second game, like when you're shooting zombies and killing zombies and like the anxiety that like it's a ludonarrative device where like you're like the point isn't that you're killing zombies. You're just feeling her trauma. You're feeling her anxiety surrounding this larger issue. It's perfect.
So what are your I'm curious because like what are your thoughts on that the sort of the way they use violence in those games? Because like to me I think it's at odds a little bit sometimes, and I know that's a big discourse, but to me I think that like with how much they try to kind of show how much damage violence does to, you know, even just normal people communities, because obviously there's like all these crazy zombies, but everyone's constantly fighting. Yeah. And I think that's realistic, but I think it's a little at odds sometimes, because it's like ultimately you're being told to just go and kill these people, and it's a game, so like I get it. but I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Honestly, with very rare exception, I think all of it feels appropriate to communicating the emotional needs of the story.
Yeah. I think I
totally understand it.
Yeah, well, I want more games, because hey man, I love point and shoot bang bang game, but I find it exhausting after a while. And and this is a thing that always comes up in games discourse, that it's like, can we do different things? Can we try like making games that are, the stakes are not about constant like murder, you know? And
sure.
I've been drifting more and more towards like what everyone's calling cozy games, you know, and I've been really enjoying just like a short hike or like Alba, you know. I don't know. I've been really digging.
Have you played the new Life is Strange?
No, I haven't. I forgot there was a new one.
It's so good. It's so good. I mean,
what do you like about it?
The first one was like very near and dear to my heart as a game where like you get to just play a girl who is going to art school, and it's just about her love for her childhood best friend. Incredible. But it's just a really well crafted narrative of like, it's a small cozy game where like you get to just live out like a little cozy little life and find your way into this really warm, accepting community in a small town in Colorado. It's just visually beautiful. You get to know these characters. It's very heartwarming, and like where they go narratively, the territory that they explore emotionally is really exciting, I think, because I grew up like really loving point and click adventures. But it's not a very good. You can't go back to them. They're not actually good gameplay wise. But like getting to just explore a little world and like dive into the nuance of a character and tell a story that you wouldn't be able to necessarily tell through just watching a film or something. You know, like you go through the main character's texts and you can go back like years to see what her relationships with some people are and how they've evolved over the years, and get to really check out like the history of certain objects that are just around you. It's the level of depth of storytelling is just really wonderful, and I'm really happy to see video games kind of go in a much more nuanced direction.
Yeah, if you could make a game, what kind of game would you want to make?
What kind of game would I want to make? Honestly, something in that realm. You know, your Oxenfree sort of territory,
like a almost
visual narrative
novel.
Yeah,
visual narrative.
Yeah. I can't get enough of them.
No, I feel you. That makes sense, because I mean, there's a strong emotional core to your work. I've been really feeling. I just want to be on a little island. I like all the games I'm playing. You're just like a little guy on an island, and you're just like running around helping people do errands, and then like,
Animal Crossing.
You know what? That one is like weaponized.
I get
it's
so
like,
stressed out by Animal Crossing.
I can't. It's like so here's the thing. I played the first game when it first came out. I don't know if you did, Julie.
Yeah. Yes.
But yeah, I played that one. I played the DS one.
Yep.
And I just got burnt out. Like, I'm done. Like, I don't need to do that again. I don't need that grind.
Yeah.
And
I feel that way about Harvest Moon games. With like people are playing Stardew Valley and whatever. I can't do it anymore.
Oh my god. Yeah.
You know what though? I will. Okay, so I played Harvest Moon 64 religiously.
Yeah, same.
That was
until a hurricane destroyed my greenhouse.
Oh, just once, huh? I had it. I think I had it happen like 3 times, and I just kept, pulling up my bootstraps. Making a new one.
Respect.
Yeah. Who was your like partner of choice in Harvest Moon 64?
I was very practical. It was like whoever like milked the cows or whatever. Like
I think that was the like red-headed girl.
Yeah.
I had Karen, who was absolutely useless and did nothing. And
I
I think
she was the best choice.
She was cute. I don't know. My 11-year-old self was like, I like her blonde streaks. I'm gonna marry her. And then she did nothing. She did absolutely nothing. And I was reading a guide on like Game Facts later, and I was like, what? Like, I picked the one that doesn't help at all. Great. That's what marriage is.
I respect that so much. Not your choice, her choice to not do anything.
Yeah, she was a trophy wife, I guess.
Truly.
But I played that a lot, and then there was a moment a few years ago where I was like, I want to get back into, like, I needed like just a farming game, and so I tried playing that one, and that game is slow, and it's like a 3-day wait, how long is it? I think it's like a 10-minute day cycle or something like that. It's frantic.
Wow.
And so it's fast. And so but I was like, you know what? I'm going to give this Stardew Valley game a shot. I got really into it. I think that if you liked Harvest Moon 64 and you're ever feeling like I just want like a chill farming game, I think that game feels good. There's something about it. I know V is obsessed.
Oh, really?
Went down.
Yeah. I mean, I was like, it was great because I had to I went back to France over the summer, and I like the rides is like something like 10 hours, and Stardew Valley was amazing. I was just like, got on the plane, turned on the switch, and I was like, I'm already in France. It's like, because it keeps you so busy. And I got really obsessed with one of the characters.
Who was your crush, V?
Well, we've already talked about it in like a previous episode, but I was like really into Shane. Obviously, like everybody's into Shane, so if you play the game, let me know.
Yeah, let me know. Let me know your thoughts on Shane.
Yeah. Let me know which one's your favorite character, because that's kind of cool. You can play like any kind of like gender and any kind of relationship with the characters.
Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, enough about Harvest Moon. Let's take it back to comics. So, how did you first like get the sort of publishing deal, and like how did that play out? Because you were just doing the comics for fun, and then suddenly you have a book deal. How did that play out?
Well, I was doing it professionally and whatever. Screaming into the void in my sketchbook. It was kind of a number of things kind of hit all at once. So I was creating like the comics for Up and Out as my career. Then I get messaged by the Houghtons about the Big City Greens gig. And at the same time, I was dealing with the early stages of my transition, screaming into the void in my sketchbook on a daily basis. Eventually I move out to LA, and I start my job over at Disney, and I'm still screaming into the void into my sketchbook. But I ended up in a revisionist gig to basically have a little bit of an art boot camp to get me up to speed so I could, eventually do boarding and whatever. Because while there's a lot of crossover with comics, there's still a number of ins and outs to learn. Sure. So that was cool, but like I still didn't really know what I was doing at first. So I didn't have time or space to make any more comics for Up and Out. And that had been such a giant part of my life, building that audience for like the past like 4 or 5 years or so. And I like suddenly like I was kind of like started eyeing this stack of comics that I created for myself, these journal comics. And I was like, maybe I could put this online to help, other people feel seen. Maybe we'll see how I feel about it. And I very nervously start putting them online one by one, and the project slowly starts to blow up. There's a really big reaction, really positive reaction, and I realized that. What I was doing with the project, I quickly realized that it was really unique, that nobody had quite talked about transitioning in such an immediate way. At the time, like, there were certainly like novelized memoir accounts,
Sure.
and some stuff that read more like textbooks, but like there was nothing that like of this sort of immediate day-to-day nature where you get this little snapshot of what the anxieties involved in transitioning and all that. And so I, it was really early on in Big City Green's season 1. It was like the very beginning. And so like production was kind of stop and go as far as revisions went. And like there would be like a week or two where like there really wasn't very much work. And so I actually, I started concocting an idea to reach out to media outlets. I started researching reporters and like kind of created a little pitch for them to I dropped the story into their lap basically, because all media outlets, they have like this kind of a slush email that you can email for like with ideas and whatever. I decided to circumvent that and reach out to reporters that specifically had covered LGBT things and art things in particular, to like try, because like they're all just getting paid by their story. So like why not just like drop the perfect story into their laps? I created like a bit of a news storm over the next few weeks. I ended up with like dozens of interviews. And one of the things that came out of that was like a number of offers for publishing, and also literary agent representation. And so it kind of fell together pretty quickly.
That's amazing. I want to like underline that. Like,
gotta be scrappy.
That's so smart, because like I think that people underestimate people. Okay, and I include myself in this because you're making me rethink a lot of choices I've made. But I think that like it's not about the work, right? Like we live in a capitalist ass society, and I think that
it's all about the buzz, baby.
You have to work the system, yeah. And I think that like what you did is really interesting, because it's not about creating a body of work. That's not enough.
No.
And that's unfortunate, obviously, but let's move past that into how do you get seen? How do you find an audience?
Well,
how do you get
I mean, my prerogative was like, I know I have something good, unique, and very valuable to both the trans community and potential cis allies as well.
Sure.
And I wanted to just reach more people. Like, I desperately just needed my audience to grow larger, because like I was hitting people that already were into comics, but like I realized like everybody is into comics. Like when newspaper comics like were a popular thing, like people that read them didn't consider themselves comics people. It's just like part of their average lives and whatever. Everybody likes comics.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, it was just like, I don't know. I felt like a real imperative to get it out to as many people as possible.
I think it's really smart. I think like pitching the story is really smart. It's not about going to, you could be knocking on publishers' doors for years and they will just not get it.
Yeah.
It's just a risk. It's a risk, and they're not going to want to take it.
Of course. But if there's buzz around, if people are talking about the property, it makes all the difference.
Oh man, yeah, I think that's really good advice. I think that that's something I've tried to mention on here before, and I tell people all the time that it's like it's not about your idea. It's about how well you sell it, and that applies to animation. It applies to comics. It applies to music. Like everything is marketing, and it's about, like you said, creating that buzz. And so yeah, I don't know. I want whoever is out there like trying to get their thing picked up, like think about how you can reach people without just focusing on the work. Like try to figure out a way to, you have to figure out a way
Gotta maneuver
to create buzz. You gotta maneuver.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's complicated.
Yeah, you gotta be scrappy to survive. Hey,
gotta be scrappy. You gotta make moves. You gotta like figure things out. You gotta think outside the box, and like that's what sets you apart. Like that's what'll help you stand out, because everyone's grinding for the same goals.
Yeah.
So anyway,
hot tips.
Hot tips. Yeah, I think I've tried to do it here and there. Like I've tried to do it without revealing my hand of where I was trying to do it.
Yeah.
But I think, part of even trying to get a show made is like you want to show executives that what they're missing out on, right? And so like fuck it. I mean, I'm talking about Planet Panic. And so it's like there's been a consistent narrative of like, well, why the fuck hasn't that been greenlit? And the answer is I don't know. Its honest answer is I don't know. Yep. But it has helped so much to have everyone being so positive and supportive of it online that at least when I go into the meetings, I can say like, look at this. This is everything that people are saying. Look at all this fan art. And so it's been really helpful to have that kind of buzz. Yeah. Unfortunately, animation industry is a hellhole right now, and nobody wants to do anything original. So
yes.
That's the state of that. Have you ever considered pitching a show?
Yep.
And have you?
No. I have been so. It's funny. Well, it's not funny. Transition has been such a big part of my life for the past like 6 years or so. Where because due to repression and like not figuring out things the same time as your peers, you kind of are left with figuring out a whole lot all at once. All the while you still need to make money and live your life, and life just keeps on going. And all the while I'm was sharing comics online and creating content and making books and like having like some like an occasional art gallery and all that. That I was just I've been super busy the last like 6 years, 5-6 years. While I'm really glad that like I've made the books that I have, and like I've done the things that I had. Like I've spent the necessary time on myself to grow and just and become comfortable in my own skin, which is incredible. It definitely is a big old time sink, most people kind of figure out who they are and like move towards that trajectory starting when like, they're 12 and, you kind of have this time reset. And so, no, I really don't feel like I have personally had the capacity to formulate or put forth the time and effort necessary to put a pitch together. But sure. I've definitely thought about it. I've talked about it with occasional executives to get a sense of like what studios are looking for. Got so far as talking with like one executive in particular who was like on board with working with me to see like, all right, how can we get a trans main character on a show? And I was like, oh, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah.
They were asking you?
Well, no, I was bringing it up to them. It's like, what's the possibility of that? It's like, well, I'm not going to name the studio or anything or specifics or anything, but it's like, all right, well, we we won't be able to get like a trans main character, like the main character, but good friend of but main circle cast, certainly, so long as like we're not necessarily just focusing on the transition. So there's maneuverability there, and like knowing that like there are executives that are willing to go to bat with that sort of thing. That's really cool. But yeah, I've definitely thought about the idea of pitching, but it's not until very recently that I've had kind of capacity to really consider the options.
In talking about trans characters, how was your experience voice acting for?
That was so cool. That was wonderful. It, like a lot of things, it was it just kind of happened, stumbled into it. You know, you're in LA in the animation industry, and like you make friends and whatever. One of my friends, Ray, was putting his show together, High Guardian Spice, and he had formulated a character that was a trans woman who was still working herself out, and kind of loosely based her around me. Tall, fluffy hair, and like some personality things and things about my life. And when he was when he was doing voice tests and whatever, and listening to he was looking specifically for a trans woman's voice. Nothing really sounded right, and eventually it hit him that he was really just looking for my voice. And so he asked me, and despite not having any experience in the realm, you know, I very nervously sent my voice test, and they were into it. It was a really cool experience getting to do something that was creative, that wasn't drawing based. Acting was a whole lot of fun. Definitely was a real learning process, but the voice, the producer who was in the booth was honestly such a genius. He was really well versed in getting the best performance possible out of his actors. Nice. And definitely got better as it kept going. And it was just really exciting to be able to explore creativity in that avenue. And I would love to do it again.
Did you have to be with SAG or like it's the union?
Oh,
right?
No. It was a non-union show.
Okay.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, for context, people that don't know, like if it's a show that it falls under the Screen Actors Guild, like you can't even voice act until you're a part of the guild. So like breaking in is so fucking hard as a voice actor. Like you have to act as if you're a professional voice actor before you have the roles, basically. Like it's pretty whack. I tried that.
That's why it's really great that you got this role, because like it might like really help you down the line to possibly get like a union gig.
Absolutely.
That would be really awesome.
Absolutely. Like it was wild getting like on the job training in that way. Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, you kind of have to start with roles that are not union or just build up a portfolio and a reel and et cetera, and then kind of hope to land one of those bigger gigs.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's good. It's a great step. We like to ask our guests how they deal with creative block and what it feels like for them.
Creative block. Interesting. Because like I generally create in like big bursts. I guess, well, back in the day, like I just kind of forced myself to keep on going. I'd get intensive burnout because I was creating like 4 or 5 comics a week, trying to reinvent the circle or the wheel, because I was never reusing characters or anything. But I've just pushed through it. Sometimes like there's just like you have a job, you need to make it work. You set deadlines for yourself. But really, I've noticed that as I've gotten older and have tried to avoid burnout as much as possible, I realize that like I go through periods of input and output, the periods where like I really just want to take in media and just, I don't know, live my life. And then, you know, I'm just constantly just taking in narratives, taking in inspiration, taking in all aspects of life, and then times that I just want to output. I just want to create. And I think not trying to force it when you're not feeling it is definitely a privileged position to be in. Being that, you know, I've been in a stable gig in the animation world. But I mean, it definitely feels ideal to just not. If you're not feeling it, just don't engage.
Yeah,
definitely. We got a bunch of good questions on Twitter. So if you're down, I would love to ask you some.
Yeah, all the way down.
From @MollyMonstera. How do you like to keep your comic ideas organized?
Organized.
Do you keep them organized?
I'm trying to think. Well, with my comics, like I typically do them traditional pen and ink in a sketchbook, and they're just one after the next. My sketchbook, like I just end up scanning them and like formatting them for a book format eventually. But yeah, there's no real rhyme or reason to it. I guess maybe there would be more organization story-wise if I was doing long-form things, but for the most part, like I do such short, like 3 or 4 panel narratives that are directly taken from my life that, like, I don't know. There's no real thought to organization, I suppose.
Because like you've said before that like you don't like to approach things that have just happened to you, right? Like you sort of do the comics later, or did I misunderstand?
Oh no, I do them right when they happen, so it's fresh. Yeah. To really be feeling that as much as possible.
Right.
I end up sharing them after the fact.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see. That makes more sense. Yeah, because I was gonna say if you draw them later, then how do you keep that?
Sure.
Organized? But yeah, I get that because if it's a fresh wound and everyone starts commenting and shit, that's not fun.
Yeah, exactly. Like I need distance from my own emotions, and also like it's funny. Like with the first book, it was kind of, it was a controlled accident that like that it became a published book because it was just me screaming into the void. With the second book, I again like I tried to not think about my audience. I knew it was going to be a book, but I couldn't think about it in terms of being a book. Otherwise, I'd like start like thinking in terms of an audience and like what do I actually want to share here? And I needed time to like just create it for me and then like step away from it so that I could see if like by the end of it like. Is this book worthy? Is this even something that's worth sharing? I don't know, because I'm too close to it. But yeah, no real thought to organization, I suppose. I'm just a hot mess all around.
Who isn't? Aren't we all? From @KMakesThings, one of our patrons. Subscribe to our Patreon to help support us. Hi, Julia. Has transition affected the way you relate to your creativity? In my own, I have felt much less compelled to make certain, quote, kinds of art and more fully listen to my creative impulses. Also, thanks for being a trailblazer.
Oh, cool. Thank you. That's really sweet.
Thanks, Kay.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really surreal looking back on the work that I made before coming out. The gag strips. I don't do that anymore. I have the capacity to, like working in like animation. If I'm being paid to like do comedic stuff, I can and will. But like I realized that like so much of my early work was me trying to not be trying to get out of my head to not be myself as much as possible, which makes sense because I didn't know how to be myself. And so like I can only see the influences like. A lot of my work was like me trying to be Casey Green, me trying to be Kate Beaton, me trying to be Jason Poland, and et cetera, et cetera. Just so many people that I was trying to get outside of my head as much as possible. And a lot of the comics end in sadness and pain. It's very easy for me to just very clearly see the work was being made by someone that was trying to hide herself, was trying to just was intensely uncomfortable with being herself or expressing herself in any tangibly real way, and was trying to avoid that as much as possible. And yeah, I haven't really done that sort of gag strip since. I mean, I have learned to since be much more honest with myself about everything. And I just make much more fulfilling work now.
Yeah, for sure. From @GigaJane. Hell yeah, I like that name. What has it been like navigating being a trans woman in the industry? Do you have any advice for young up-and-coming trans people trying to break in? Context, I'm a trans woman as well and a student.
I wish I had a good answer for this. I mean, I've had a good time, but like I've also been kind of an exception to the rule, having in a lot of ways. I've been in the industry for like, I don't know, 5.5 years now, and it's all been on one show. And the show when they interviewed me, I had already begun transitioning, but they knew me under my dead name and were expecting expecting that person. So I interviewed not as myself because I was worried that that might impact the interview. Honestly, I had no idea.
That's interesting.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I ended up.
What was that like for you? Like, was it like really stressful? Were you like,
No, not too. It was
interview?
early on enough that like I was still not fully. I wasn't out online, so like I was kind of used to that at that point still. Yeah. So like, it definitely wasn't fun, but you know, it felt necessary at the time because. Yeah, you know, at this point, like I know that it wouldn't have made any difference to the showrunners now, but you know, I didn't know them before, and I just I was scared of of messing up the opportunity to interview for a Disney show, what that opportunity meant as someone that was like below poverty line for so many years. And then then I came out like basically just before coming into the office, and I was assured that like it wouldn't make a difference, and it didn't. And then I've been fortunate enough to be on a crew that's been really diverse, ethnicity or orientation, and just wise. Yeah, so it's been really wonderful for me. So
I feel like this is just to kind of like circle back to the question. It's something that I see on Twitter a lot. I see a lot of people being very anxious about the animation industry, like being afraid that it wouldn't be inclusive or that they would be excluded in some sort of shape or way. Like, and you can talk about your experience too as well, Jane, but I feel like I've been lucky to be on shows that were very sweet. Like I have heard stories in the industry, but the shows that I was on, I felt like everyone was always respectful to all the different like minorities that were present, and you know, obviously, they try. It's like I feel like minorities could be better represented in shows, obviously, like both on screen and in the crew.
Absolutely.
I just wanted to put that in there, because I really want all kind of minorities to feel empowered to like reach for their dream, because you know,
well, I think I think it's important to note, because I think I've seen this happen before, where like people ask, you know, they're almost afraid of jumping into an industry that they're worried won't receive them, and like that sucks. Like, don't gate yourself. Like, it's actually very good on the inside. Like people, because everyone is really kind, like especially the actual artists and even production, like everyone is really receptive, and we're all very you know, accepting. And like whatever corporate like things are happening where they're like uncomfortable with X, Y, or Z, like it doesn't affect most of the time, I should say, it doesn't affect people. Like there's still going to be and maybe you can speak to that, Julia, that like, I don't know, maybe have you felt like accepted amongst the crew and amongst sort of your work environment?
Yeah, I mean, I remember like, before coming on, like I was terrified.
Sure.
Not knowing what to expect, but I remember coming on to work like, I think there's a comic in Super Late Bloomer that comments on this, that I was so worried that first day, but like it was just any other day. I felt immediately received and seen and respected across the board. It's been
I think don't be afraid. Like there's a lot of really kind people, and it's everyone. We want to see more diversity. All of us do. Like we all are trying. It's just not all of us are in positions of power. And
one day,
one day we will all have our shows. But we actually had a question that was related to that from at Mr. Mad 64. Do you think animation studios / companies do well to protect marginalized creators from online hate?
No.
Yeah. That's the flip side of that, right?
I've literally never seen or heard it happening.
That's the flip side. That's the corporate side that I was saying, where it doesn't happen.
Yep.
I think The only thing I would say is that because I was on a show that got a lot of hate, like people who are fans of the podcast will know which one it is. But the company did say there are specific instances in which they can help you, but it's very specific. It like has to include like a certain type of wording, and it's like legally it's like very specific. But
there's probably a document somewhere, like there's probably like a slideshow that they had to put together in some fucking meeting where they were like, if they use these words, then like it's so fucking dystopian. But no, I think the culture inside the studios is great, but when you're stepping out, if you're a creator and you're stepping out into the world of public opinion, like you have to have a thick ass skin. Like it's not even thick skin. You have to have like fucking armadillo armor. Like, it's just you're gonna get hate, and you have to deal with it. And it's like it's unavoidable.
But however, I do find that a lot of companies are starting to offer counseling sessions. Like I've seen that in multiple companies. So even if they can't shield you from the online hate,
well, how can they? Also, like how can they? You know, like ultimately, like if you have a personal account and you're putting yourself out there, there's nothing they can do to shield you from random people on the internet. So it's like the thing that I think sucks, and maybe this is what we're all talking about, is just like it sucks when they don't want to put out any kind of statement or any,
I was just about to say, absolutely.
Yeah. That's the part that's frustrating. It's not because, to expect them to somehow shield you, that's not going to happen. You're an adult. You need to learn to deal with it.
Yeah, but at least they can stand behind their creators.
Yeah, they can stand behind you.
And
I think that's the part that's disappointing. So, but yeah, I think if you plan on becoming, if you're moving towards becoming a not that it's easy, but if you want to be a showrunner or you want to like get a show, you cannot be sensitive to what people are saying to you on the internet. Like you just can't. Like you're gonna have to learn to compartmentalize that somehow. Because it's unavoidable.
Especially if it's queer content, because
totally
everybody likes to attack that, especially queer people.
Yeah. Well, if you're comfortable talking about that, like, have you kind of figured out a way to shrug off the haters, so to speak?
I've actually been really fortunate for the most part to kind of fly under the radar for most of my career. I've built a really wholesome audience, and it's been really crucial to my being able to share the work that I do at the scale that I am able to do it. Every once in a while, I do get found by, say, a Nazi group and or TERFs, and it ends up being just a process of locking down your account for a while, because there's nothing running blockchains on Twitter and whatever as you can. I'm the worst at dealing with it. I like anything that anybody says that's negative, that will just haunt me for days.
Sure.
You know?
Wow. That's really crazy. How long would you, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to like have you share your strategy with everyone, but like what's like kind of like a bracket? Like would you say it's more in like hours, days, weeks, months?
I mean, like I said, like I've mostly circumvented. So it's really been a matter of days, generally speaking.
Okay.
Nice. Which has been really fortunate.
But I think that's important to note, that like you don't have to engage, right? Like you
engaging is worse. Don't engage.
It's worse.
Yes.
So another question that we had that ties into a question that we usually ask at the end. From @Ajax the Abrasive. I don't know if you're going to continue working on animation in addition to your comics, but if you do you have any goals, ideas you want to create, people you want to work with, messages to spread to the cartoon-loving masses, etc.?
Ooh. Yeah. I mean, I do plan on staying in animation. I put out my 2 books, and I don't really see any end game for comics. There's no real money in it, and I need to be able to support myself. So animation seems like it's the place to be, at the very least right now. So I do plan on like kind of leaning into things more, and at the very least becoming a board artist in the short term. But yeah, I mean, I do have some ideas that are kind of vague ideas that are like spinning right now that I'm letting stew on the back burner. I've got vague plans and notions about things that I'd like for the future. Not certain how detailed, how much I want to go into that biz, but yeah, I definitely have plans, and people I want to work with. I want to work with my friends.
Nice.
Everybody that I know in this industry, everybody that I'm friends with, is outrageously talented, and I just want to be able to work alongside them, because that's a good time.
Yeah, it is. Do you think
It really is.
Do you think that would you be able to maintain your comics career if you were doing boards full time? Because it's fucking hard.
Yeah, probably not. Not in the same capacity. I don't know. I would probably make one-off comics or figure out ways to make the process, just quicken the process to suit my needs. Like the reason that like Super Late Bloomer visually it's really rough. It's very simple, and it's not that I didn't know how to draw better. I just made those comics. I had a career in comics already, and I didn't have time to really devote to a project, so I just made them quick and dirty as possible. So that like what's 20 minutes of drawing at the end of the day. It still felt manageable, and I feel like in some capacity, I'd like to be able to continue making comics. It's really a wonderful way to get direct representation out there in a way that I find really appealing and satisfying. In a world where I didn't need to support myself with money, I would definitely just make comics, but that's not the world that we live in. So
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if you have read Virginia Woolf's a room of one's own.
it sounds familiar.
Anyway, she talks about that. She talks about like being able to put out work out there that is like anything close to writing. So in my opinion, like making comics is basically writing, because it's just like work that you just kind of do by yourself at home, and then you have to like kind of ship it around to publishers and be like, please, someone makes like and she talks about the fact that you do need to have money to have like a way to sustain yourself. And it's a really, really interesting read. It's just probably 50 pages or something. It's kind of talking about how like when you're a minority, because obviously she talks about being a woman, but like when you're generally like a minority, your like money is harder to get.
Oh, for sure. It's rough. No, that sounds like an incredible recommendation. I should check that out. That sounds right up the alley. It's, I don't know. Honestly, my favorite comics work is by people that don't necessarily do it full time, because they're able they're professional hobbyists, I guess, online hobbyists that do it because they want to, not because they need to support themselves to like bend to the whims of the market. So I definitely don't think I'll be doing it quite as often, but definitely would like to ideally keep on being able to make comics.
Yeah. Anything you want to plug while you're on the show?
Plug. Like I said, I've got 2 books out there. Super Late Bloomer, My Life in Transition, is the one that came out this past year. It's a sequel and a companion novel, if you will. I think you can't really read one without the other. I think they're pretty good. People tell me they're good. You can find me at Up and Out Comic on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, I guess.
When's that 3rd book gonna drop? Give us the inside scoop.
In 5 years. 5 years.
Okay.
Oh,
All right.
If the first one was year 1, the second one was year 3. I gotta give it some breathing room. Somewhere around year 10.
Sure.
I'll be feeling it.
Interesting.
I need
All right, you heard
something
it
to
here.
be able to say. If the first one was
No, I hear ya.
like the casting a light on like transition and like the just the bigness of it. The second one was like, oh, hey, less dysphoria. Let's comment on like what it means to be trans a few years in when things have calmed down a little bit.
Settling in.
And
yeah.
what do things look like when you're 10 years in? We don't really have media that's like that. I need to be able to do that. I need breathing room to be able to process my life, and the timing needs to feel right.
Totally.
Yeah,
No, that's fascinating.
totally.
I think that's really. I think that's great that you've put that goal, because I think it's true when you said that. Like, there's nothing documenting that, right? And so I think it's going to be a resource that more and more people come back to, and it probably will help a lot of people.
I hope so.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for inviting me. This was great.
Yeah, that's the end of this creative block. Thanks to Julia for being our guest
And sharing your story.
and sharing your story.
And thanks to your listeners. Follow us on Twitter. It's at Creative Block, creative without the vowels, where we ask for drawing prompts and questions to ask your guests. Huge thanks to my sister Clemens for editing the podcast, and our producer Malik.
If you love our show, then support us on Patreon. Becoming a patron gets you early access to interviews as well as bonus episodes. Click the link in the description of this episode. I've been your host, Gene.
And I was V. Keep being creative, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.